Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's January 18th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And a market that can go up eventually is going to go down. And you can see we tried multiple times. Even today started out looking like we were going to be real positive, and we finally got some movement today. It was fairly bearish. Um, if you back out here, it looks like my trend line's moved a little bit here. It's off for some reason. I don't know how this happens, but now that I'm looking back, I just noticed this today. We right off that trend line, so that's another reason we probably could not go higher there. Um, you can see the main trend line still holding, and suddenly we get this huge sell-off from it. So I still think this market's crazy. It's mostly just we've been more sideways than anything, but there's still a downward bias here, and this blue channel on this daily chart is still in play. So we still have room for some downside to me. I just there's most of your economic news is not good, and when you're rallying on bad economic news, it's just a matter of time till you get a day or two like this. And who knows? It looks like we're going lower to me, but we went from off the trend line to almost overbought to the midline in one day, and that's kind of how this thing's been. We get these rallies that just kind of they just keep going higher. They just keep creeping higher, and then suddenly they sell off, and boom, it's a big sell-off. So if we got a measured leg here now, let's assume that this is the new high on leg two, then it's putting us back down here where our previous lows kind of were. So at a minimum, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we retest these lows. I still think we probably should make a new low at some point, but I've been thinking that for a while, and we just keep bouncing and rallying here. So uh, we'll see what happens. But anyway, there's the look at it on the daily. Very bearish, very big sell off. This is one of those days where when you see a trend like that, maybe you don't take your 2 or 3 trades. Maybe you hang in there, and every time you get a perfect trade, there weren't a lot of perfect trades, to be honest. As big as that sell off was, there weren't a lot of easy, perfect setups. So I mean, there's plenty of trades, don't get me wrong, we'll go through them, but it wasn't one of those days where you just continue to get second entries right off the key entry point, and it's a no-brainer kind of trade. So there was still a little bit, it's just like it would reverse and sell off, and you just didn't get a lot of opportunities to enter if you didn't catch it early. So, but let's flip over there to the 2,000 tick chart. We'll look at that chart, and we'll go through the trades, and we'll kind of wrap the day up. Okay, here's a look at it, and you can see this huge sell-off, and we just didn't get a lot of chances to get in this trade safely. I marked one trade about halfway through, and then towards the end of uh, the trend, or I shouldn't say the end of the trend, but towards the latter part of the trend, we got quite a few trades. This is one of those days where there wasn't much happening in the middle from late, probably mid-morning to until just before lunch, and then we kind of had a better afternoon. So I just talked about that the other day. Usually the morning is your best trading. Well, in this case, it wasn't necessarily. This is one of those days where you got a little afternoon trading. So late morning, early afternoon. So still plenty of trades here. We started out in this range. And I think I talked about it in the mid-morning chart that eventually if we keep testing these, I mean, we've been testing this 40.30 to 40.35 for a couple of days, and prices just can't breach it. And when prices can't go higher, they're going to turn and go lower and start testing the support. And you can see we tested it here, it gave way. We tested it here, it gave way, and we just all the way down, it gave way. And so the path of least resistance for now is to the downside. It wouldn't surprise me if we don't rally tomorrow and take it all back as well, as crazy as this market's been. But um, we'll see. I still think we got room to the downside. I did block off this 7:15 to about 7:45. We did have quite a bit of economic news here, all high, and in the red. So high impact, which is anything in the red's high impact. So you want to be aware of that, especially lately. Um, and you can see we did have some effect here with it. But so really from 7 on, you really couldn't start trading until about 7:45 today. And of course we made a bottom here and we started working up, and you got a quick second entry right there. I don't know that I'd go long above that bar. I mean, it's pretty strong momentum there, and but you've already had a break and a new high right here, so it could just go a few ticks and turn down. So if you didn't enter this one on the engulfing bar, which might be a little bit risky here, however, it is a second entry, and you do have a trap. It broke lower first and turned up, so I I don't have a problem trading that. It's real. You could almost call this green. Because really I don't think I would trade it by going long up here. You just about have to trade the engulfing bar, and that makes it a little more risky. You need to, there's always a chance you can get it wrong. It is a little sideways there as well, so something else to think about. So this is real close to being green. And then of course, well, all we did was we got in this tighter range here, the pink range, and we're coming down here. You got a break, new low, and then we come back and you get a second entry short right here. Again, this is pretty similar to this one. I don't think I would go short down here, although especially because that's where most of your support was at the time. You might trade that when it went past his thing. This one technically isn't an engulfing bar, so really you couldn't trade that now that I think about it, because this didn't break higher, so my thinking is off a little bit there. I was thinking about trading, when I made that green, I was thinking about trading that as an engulfing bar, but it is not an engulfing bar. So you can't go short below this bar. But what you could do, which I don't really recommend, is you could let this break lower down here and drop a limit order back where this would have triggered and see if it comes back. I don't know if it would have or not. I don't remember, to be honest. I'd probably just skip that trade. But it does come back and make a lower high and gives you a relatively negative bar. If it breaks lower there, I'd go with it. Because you can see we're making lower highs and lower lows every single time. So there could be a bigger channel here that's forming. Doesn't turn out that way, but at that point, it could have been. So, and you could really look at that as a triple test, because this came back, and this came back. And then we come down here, we get a little failed break lower. There's a reversal right there that you might have considered, but this is a range, and this is right in the middle, and you could see you struggled to go higher above that resistance. So I just don't think you want to, you're not really looking for a reversal here. You might trade it as a failure. To me, this looks sideways in like one leg. So here's your second leg right here to me. And that's supposed to be red. How in the world did I get a blue upside down arrow? That's supposed to be red. And that's just a short right off the upper side of the range. And it is a second entry. This is a new low here, so first entry, second entry. So there's two legs up there and a big bearish bar way away from the EMA. That was a quick, easy trade. Then we're just kind of chopping sideways again. No real way to get long on this. But then we come up here and hit it again. Now you got a triple test again, way away from the EMA. That signal bar is not ideal, and there is a channel still coming up, but you've got a triple test there. I think that bar is close enough. I still like that trade being that far away from the EMA. You might wait on a lower high here. If you did, you don't get a trade though. It does bounce early and go back up, and then we're just kind of stuck here between this resistance and these highs over here from the news. And we get a full failed breakout there. Again, I think you need to wait on a lower high, which is here. But now but remember, you're kind of stuck between this resistance, which is now acting as support, and this resistance. So I think it's too dangerous to go short there. I think you probably would have got out of that, but I wouldn't risk it. And it comes back, and it makes a lower high. And now you've tested that resistance multiple times, and you've already pushed through here. You've made a lower low each time. So now I feel a little more comfortable taking a risk there. and off it goes. I still made that green just for the reason that it is right back into that resistance again. But if you're paying attention here, you can see we made a lower low each time, and that's a good sign, especially after a failed breakout, because what they do when they can't take this thing down, they'll let it go higher, and then they'll trap everybody in there, and then they'll let it go, and then that's what usually breaks it out the other side of the range as well. And you can see once we got down here to the main side, it gave way and it was off to the races. We did bounce off the lows, no setup there, and then we're just chopping on it. Nothing, no entries here. This is really tempting, but it's so close to that low. If you took it, it worked. This one's definitely too close because there's probably still room there, but it looks really congested. If you do your little measured move here, there's not much room there, and you can see it is bouncing along that line before it goes lower, and you sure can't go short right into this support that's held pretty much most of the morning for over an hour. So nothing really going on there. You just kind of have to sit tight. This is just kind of sideways stuff. There's one way you might have entered right here. You might have looked at this as kind of range lot. You can see it looks a little like a range. Even if you brought the high across here and you showed that as a breakout, with this coming down, a failed breakout, you got a break of this channel, this khaki channel coming down, and a couple of legs down to a new low. It's aggressive buying there, so I didn't mark it. I think it's too risky. And of course, you see it just keeps going low. But if you're just patient, I say this all the time, don't force trades. Just be patient, wait on the right one, and then you get a first entry and you get a second entry, although that doesn't qualify for a signal bar because it doesn't have an equal high there. It's just an inside bar. But then you get this lower high. It breaks higher, turns down. If we break below that, go with it. And you probably get a runner here, and that's a pretty nice trade. Again, just sideways, nothing in there, no chance to really trade that. Bounces. Again, you get an inside bar. This is somewhat of a repeat pattern of this. Normally I'll tell you to avoid inside bars, but this is a really strong trend. And you do see the first entry, and this is a second entry. If it breaks below there, it's probably going to be at least good for a scalp, and it might keep going lower. So if you're going to be a little more aggressive, this is one you might do. Normally I wouldn't mark that, like I said, but look at that sell-off. It's a very strong sell-off. Prices have not been able to really get back above the EMA, and usually they'll on a trend this strong, it'll take them a few tries, and they might push through it, but it'll take more than one or two tries before it'll reverse, and a lot of times it'll just end up going lower like it did. You'll get a different trend angle or something. So maybe you take that trade. Again, too choppy, too sideways, all across here. I don't like any of that. There was a lower high here, but you couldn't, even if it would have triggered, you couldn't go short because of the support there. And then you want to try to get short on this side, not long on this side, especially in a downtrend. And you can see once you got short here, boom, and then he comes back up here and it tests it again, and you get another chance. There's a lower high here, but it's too close to the support there because it could bounce again. We don't know how long this is going to last. However, we did have the failed breakout, which could lead to a push through, but don't risk that. Wait on something better. You could take this one or this one, but just skip this one right here. It is a second entry. It is a lower high. It's right in the middle of a range, though, but you would expect prices to push lower here. Drops on down. And here we are. We're coming up. And of course, we get a break here and we don't get a new high, and I still marked it. But look how strong that trend channel is, and this is a very strong downtrend. It's a second entry short and a very bearish bar. Even if it's going to come back, you'll probably get a scalp out of that. And then you get a failed second entry long. It's not a reversal pattern. It's just a failure with the trend right off the key entry point. If it breaks lower there, go with it. It does, and this is pretty much a double top. So you got another first entry, second entry, but I wouldn't trade this on the engulfing bar, and you got support there. But when it comes back again and gives you a lower high, again, right off the key entry point with such a big bearish bar, just go with it. There's another great move. And then finally, you get a bounce down here, and it looks like we're going to get a, and all this is a correction in a bigger downtrend. Don't try. I don't see anything there would make me want to buy. There's no great setups, and you can see it ends pretty quickly or just kind of chops sideways to down again. But this comes back and confirms this trend line right here. You get a lower high here, but I'm not crazy about it. But then you get the failed second entry long, and then you get a trap here on a lower high. I like that one. I like those two bounces again, and notice how it can't even get back up here. And then next thing you know, it breaks out down there. It gets into 230, and then it's gone. And then maybe the last hour or so, we just kind of, not the last hour, but the last maybe 20 minutes or so, we just going sideways. Nobody's willing to buy it now. The selling's kind of come to an end, but nobody's willing to buy it. So we may get some follow through on this trend. This is a really strong trend. Could be a little overdone, and we may bounce. But I suspect we may get some follow-through buying on this thing. So very bearish day. It started out, it took a little while. They really tried to take it higher up here, and when they just couldn't anymore, boom. And that's what happens. A market that can't go higher will turn lower, and a market that can't seem to go lower will turn higher. And we were a little overbought. If we go back to the daily chart, you can see we've come from oversold down here to overbought, and notice how we couldn't get back up into that fine. That's the reason I said there's probably room to go higher, and for some reason my trend line had drifted off here, and it looked like it was a little higher. I thought maybe we were trying to reach that trend line, and I couldn't figure out why we probably couldn't get this measured move here. But that's probably because we're turning down off the trend line. First it was the resistance. We got the resistance of the measured move based on this. That's what this little dash line is. We have the main long-term key entry point there. We've got the this purple band, which is starting to get into the overbought. So there's a lot of resistance area right there. And prices tested it multiple times, 3 days in a row, couldn't do anything, and then finally, boom. It's like a triple test, really, on a daily chart. So we'll see where we go tomorrow. So much selling today, it wouldn't surprise me if we bounce a little bit or have kind of a sideways day. But again, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we continue to trend lower either. I think that's the path of least resistance is to the downside. But I've been saying that for a while. I thought we were probably going to turn lower in here, and we just keep going higher. But maybe we were coming back to test that trend line again, and this time maybe we may turn down this time. We'll see. It's just a little harder to, the price action works the same on this daily chart, but it takes a lot longer for it to set up, and you need a lot more clues than you do when you're reading the intraday chart. Those happen much quicker, much faster. You could get this whole congestion area here, or this whole range area here in 20, 30 minutes on an intraday chart, where it takes a couple of weeks here. So this reading is a lot slower, and the movement's a lot slower. So you have to have more clues than you would on a 2,000 tick intraday chart, if that makes sense. I hope I'm describing. That's kind of hard to describe, but I think I got my point there. Hopefully that makes sense. But there it is, long term. You can see it's all downhill. So, and it's starting to look a little sideways here, which not surprising. That's kind of how we've been. We'll chop along and shoot up or chop along and shoot down. And but that key entry point is still in play, and you can see we turned down right off of it today. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next.